Okay guys, so today I have a new video for you. This is a gameplay video on the deck that I've shown off in the last one or two videos. So if you want to see more in-depth explanations of the ratios and the gameplay strategy, like why I'm playing Sanct, for example, or a single a stellar, then you can go and watch that. I just wanted to briefly show you the profile that I'm using. I've added in a bow into the extra deck, and I'm still on the toy stuff. So, okay, let's go straight into the gameplay. I think this was the most requested thing in my last videos to actually show some of this. So I will first go over Malice. I have 4 matches for you in total. And sometimes when I have games where the opponent is clearly not very good and they're just using every single interaction as soon as possible, I wonder if I should include it. But I realize that actually, when you think about how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played at the locals, this is a very, very common type of gameplay to go up against. It's where, like, your opponent has looked up the combos online and they know how to do the combo. And so they go through this like cookie cutter thing where, for example, in Malice, they end on terahertz. And usually they're going for like dump the Savaworm on their turn for the spell and trap negate. And then dump aggregator, or if they're playing Code of Soul, they may have that instead. In this particular game, when he dumped G-Golem Crystal Heart, I don't know if there's actually a play with this. I was kind of wondering what was up with the play, but anyhow, so he has a terahertz on field. And normally, when you're playing against Malice, they set off a chain reaction of plays where they special summon all of their link monsters from grave that they've put in there, but he hasn't actually, set up like the white binder and all that type of stuff. So I'm thinking that actually this doesn't look like a very good end board. And usually when I have a hand like this, the first thing that I think about, because people were asking to talk about my thought process a little bit more, is what has to resolve for me to win the game, and what can they negate or interact with and I still be fine. So my first thought is I want to go main phase because I have talents. I'm not going to use Wanted in the standby phase if I want to bait out the talents. And I activate the box, which is the least valuable card in my hand because I have nothing to interact with it. So I want to see if he does anything. So I activate box and he immediately uses the Savaworm. So now my thought is, well, maybe he's just going to throw his first interaction as soon as possible at literally everything I do, and then I might be able to win that way. So I'm like, okay, let me activate Wanted, because if he has Ash in hand, maybe he'll just Ash the Wanted. He doesn't Ash the Wanted, and so what that tells me is, okay, maybe he's not going to use his interruption as soon as possible. Or maybe he is, but he doesn't have Ash. So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the Engraver here. And if he doesn't Ash this, and he's like a bad player, then he doesn't have Ash for sure. The thing is that I can't actually start with summoning the Witch because I'm on the Sanct version of the Fiendsmith package. And so I have to control no monsters or only light Fiend monsters. So to resolve the Sanct, I actually can't like commit to any other stuff yet. So I activate Engraver here. He chains MTP 07. So this one adds a Malice monster from your deck to your hand. Then if you control a Malice Link monster, which he does not, he can banish a card on the field. So I have no idea why he has done this. I look at the field, I don't see a Malice Link monster, and now I know for sure that this guy has absolutely no idea what he's doing. So you need to look out for this, in your locals or wherever you play. When you see plays like this that don't actually lead to anything, you actually have to change your play style a little bit and play where you're leading with the things that are bait. So you have a much more like bait-centric gameplay style rather than playing in the way that you would normally play. Okay, so I searched the Sanct here, and I'm thinking that I need to play around his Little Knight, because the first time I use any monster effect, he's probably just going to Little Knight, right? So if I activate Sanct, there's nothing, I have no monsters for him to Little Knight. When I have the token on field after Sanct resolves, and I summon the Requiem, I'm in a safe spot, because if I activate Requiem, the Requiem goes to the grave, and he can't Little Knight at that point. So I really just want the Sanct to resolve and start putting the Fiendsmith stuff in rotation at this point, because worst case scenario, if he does like Little Knight on the Lacrima that I bring out off the Sanct, I'm still going to be able to have access to Engraver at least as a body. Anyhow, so here I Sanct and I bring out the Sanct, and then he activates Baldrake and he banishes the Engraver. So this is a weird play, because if you were going to Baldrake the Engraver, you could hold the Baldrake and wait until I commit to like a sequence, or I actually activate Engraver's effect Engrave to shuffle something back as cost and bring itself out, and then I would have wasted the resource for nothing. But in this case, he just shotguns the Baldrake and banishes the Engraver. So he is actually using everything as fast as possible, and it's not even in like an intelligible order. So now I make the Requiem, and I know that this is safe from the Little Knight, like, for now. And then he... See, this is, like, I thought, like, I was like, okay, this guy is going to do everything as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, but even I did not think that he would use Baldrake here. So this effect that he's using is... if your opponent special summons a Ritual Fusion, Synchro XYZ, and or Link monsters, so I've summoned a Link monster in Requiem, you contribute one other light or dark monster, then target one of those special summon monsters, banish it. So not only is he trying to banish a monster that has a quick effect to tribute itself, so it will not be banished, but he didn't even wait to get value off of his Little Knight first, or like getting some other monster on the board and then getting rid of that for the Baldrake. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just chain the Requiem and special the Lacrima, and now he doesn't have Little Knight, and now he doesn't have a Baldrake to use on something else. And then the Lacrima can trigger and dump my Engraver, because I'm on 3 Engravers here. And now he's just looking stupid, because he's used, like, he's done the cookie cutter combo of getting Terahertz on field, but he hasn't established the resource loop of, like, White Binder and Heart's Cryptor. So yeah. At this point, now I'm like, well, he could still have hand traps, right? But it's probably not Ash, because he would have used it as soon as he possibly could. So he could have, like, a Nib or like a Veiler. Like, realistically, I guess those are, like, somewhat common hand traps. He doesn't use Veiler on the Lacrima, so I think that maybe he has Nib. So here I summon the Witch by pitching the Wanted, and I set the Deception, I activate Deception, and now I contribute the 3rd Engraver, so this actually gives me a ton of Light Fiends in the graveyard for rotation, even though one of them was banished off the Baldrake, which is another reason why it's, like, not that he's trying to play around me having drawn 2 Engravers, but, like, why would you use the Baldrake before I've committed to something with a Fiendsmith Engine? Anyhow, as I said, I'm showing this replay because you should know that you should play with bait first plays when you're going against players who will just activate anything immediately in response to anything you do. Okay, so now I activate Talents, and I decide that I'm going to draw 2. I don't need to look at his hand, because if I draw, like, almost anything, like any piece of White Forest Engine at all, I'm completely fine. And if I don't draw into anything usable, I have the Hallowed, and I could do, like, Ilia Sylvia, you know, to play around like Nib, and I could turn the Lacrima and the Diabellstar into, like, a sequence if I wanted, for example. So now I activate Hallowed, and I decide that I'm not going to go for the Ilia Sylvia, because I have a way to continue playing, and if you were to Nib me before I, you know, for example, make, like, a Chaos Angel after I get the send off the Sol, the Hallowed Azamina can still add itself back from graveyard to the hand, and then I have a Speller Trap to send off of LZ, which can get me, you know, my normal summon like a Sylvie, and then I also have the LZ Azamina in hand as extension. So I know that I already have access to my full combo with my White Forest stuff, and that's why I'm playing kind of like, I wouldn't really call it more dangerously, it's more like, if he doesn't have Nib, he's going to get blown out harder, and if he does have Nib, he's going to be forced to use it sooner. So here I target the Terahertz to send it, and then he goes Chainlink to Nib. Again, I have no idea why he would choose to do it here. If he wanted to do it here, he could wait until the Terahertz was sent to the graveyard so that the token would have less stats, but, you know, what can you do? So anyhow, he Nibs here, and so now I have the token, and I'm like, okay, so anyhow, I Hallowed Azamina, shuffle back the Sol from grave into the extra deck to have a Speller Trap, and now I can just start playing the same way I would always have done. Oh, and then, but I'm also like, well, before I commit to going LZ pitch Hallowed to do my full combo, let's at least see what I draw in case that changes anything. And I draw into a second LZ, so it doesn't change anything. So the draw was more like, you know, it could be helpful, it might not be, it doesn't need to be, it was just like a good thing to have. So now I pitch the Hallowed Azamina, I LZ, I search Sylvie. I don't have a Speller Trap to send off of my a Stellar, and anyhow that would be a lot riskier than just having the tuner access. So now I can normal summon the Sylvie, I search for Tails, I go into Arciela, dump the Tails, and I search for Arusia because I'm thinking I want to link into Abao, and so I want to have extra bodies instead of something else like Unleashing, for example. So Tails resets itself. I special summon the LZ Azamina, and at this point, actually, I could make Diabell, add back Hallowed, and when this goes to the grave, this will search me like another Wanted, and I can still go for an Ilia Sylvia, or whatever. But then he scoops here. So here's a game against people who will just chainlink to literally anything. Just look in their hand, and the first thing they see, they're gonna throw it on the table. There you go. Okay. Second one is against White Forest Azamina. I'm not sure what version of the deck this was. So anyhow, here I start with Sanct. And so one of the cool things about Sanct is that it forces an interaction from your opponent somehow. Like whether it's an Ash on the Requiem or like depending on the build that you're playing, like an Imperm on the sequence or whatever, it's a good insulation to the rest of your plays. That's almost like playing it's almost like a cross out in the sense that your card economy is going to be good if you are using a single card that is guaranteed to force an interaction if they have one. So here they Ash, and that also makes talents much better, because you haven't actually committed into the main components of your engine. You're just using a sub-engine that can turn your talents live. Whereas if your talents goes live after, they Ash like an LZ, for example, like a regular LZ, you may just have no plays after you draw 2. So because you've already fizzled the LZ and then you don't draw any further engine. So yeah, talents being live after like a Ash on the Requiem is better than an Ash on, like an LZ basically. So here I talents to draw 2, and it's a pretty horrible draw because I draw into another talents and then a Veiler. So I Engraver here for another Sanct. It's not, I can't do anything useful for me. I'm not playing Tract. But I put it in the grave because this could be another body for something, depending on what happens. Like I could shuffle back the Requiem if I needed to. Okay, so then I search for the box here, and I don't really have a way to make the box live, so I just box effect, set soldier, set tank, special the Azamina LZ, and then I go into a Murcielago. So I use the Veiler because it's a light spellcaster, and itself because it's an illusion, to make the Murcielago, and then I search for a Wanted. So the Wanted can give me a Witch, and I'm showing this game because this is like a very weird opening hand, and I sometimes see comments on the videos that'll be like, I would have scooped at this point, and you really don't need to. Like there are lots of bridges in the deck that are not super obvious, and that's why I don't really like just showing off combos, because combos don't really show you what real games look like. So anyhow, I Witch and send the tank, so the tank can trigger. I set the Deception, the tank comes back, and the tank can now bring out the Engraver. And what's cool about this is you can't actually sequence to make a sequence play off of that, but you still get the body here off the tank. And Requiem can equip here, and that gives us the Necroquip Princess. So now, because we haven't used Engraver's effect, we can still go into the Wave Hiking Caesar, because we didn't use this effect to get the Engraver on field, we got it off the tank. So we still are able to connect here and make the Wave Hiking Caesar, and now we can Deception Tribute the Witch, get a Hallowed, and Hallowed can bring out our Omni Negate. We can look for a draw, hoping for, desperately hoping for like an LZ or something crazy like that. But we don't get it. And so now I just go end phase. I briefly had considered like, my initial play was, I'm hoping to get something like an LZ off of my draw, and I could turn the Murcielago and the Toy Soldier into like a Chaos Angel to protect my Synchros on their turn, like as one option. Because I'm not playing stuff like Rabbit in this deck, and I don't even know if like making a Little Knight is high enough impact to turn my Soldier and my Murcielago into that. I'm rather just like sitting on bodies and playing a resource type game. Okay, so here he Wanteds, and I'm like, okay, he's probably on White Forest, because everybody's playing that these days. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out here is one of the reasons that I don't like to main cards like Scourge or Vanadium Reframing is precisely this scenario. If you go second, this card is completely useless if you draw it. If you go first, you still have to have drawn engine, because this is not engine. So this is really just kind of like a combo piece or engine requirement that I feel like is much more appropriate in the side deck, so that when you're going first, especially if it's against breakers, then you put it in. But here you see that he's basically just pitched a useless card. So this is basically like, he started with 4 cards in hand, and then he drew 1 for turn. So yeah, anyhow, the Witch gives him Deception, he activates Deception, he tributes the Esteller, so now it's confirmed that he is in fact on White Forest, not just like a weird Azamina thing. He adds Hallowed, and now he normal summons the Sylvie, which I think is probably a misplay, because if you Deception and you tribute something for Hallowed, I feel like you need to use the Hallowed to force something. If you're not on Sol, it's harder to force stuff because you bring out Ilia Sylvia, and it's really poor card economy, because sure, you have a negate to protect you from something, but you lose the body. Whereas if you Sol, if you have like a really high ceiling board, you can sometimes even leave the Sol on board, and then I don't have it in this deck right now, and get the effect in the standby phase to add back an Azamina card from grave. Or you can turn it into like a Chaos Angel. But here he's just actually committing to normal summoning his engine, and that's extremely dangerous for him, because now if I interact with it in any way, like using a droplet, he potentially has no engine left. He has like a Hallowed Azamina and an unknown. I think it's an unknown. So here now I bring out the toy. I get a search. He activates Hallowed, and of course I can wave hiking that. So then he scoops here. Okay, now I'll show against Floo. So here, I can't remember who goes first. Oh, I go first. I think this is another kind of a weird game here. So I start with the Sanct, and I bring out Lacrima, dump Engraver, go into Necroquip, bring out Engraver, turn into Wave Hiking, and now I start doing my plays where I pitch the Tails for the LZ. I search for Sylvie, because I rarely use a Stellar. Usually just as like a combo piece. I pitch the Unleashing, bring back Unleashing, and now here I can add Azamina LZ. So when I go into Diabel, I can add something, and then I can search something. So I add back, and I get the Deception here. So now I think I wanted an extra body here to tribute, because I want to keep the Veiler in my hand. So I bring back the Sylvie by shuffling back the Arciela, so that I have a fodder to tribute for the Deception to search for the Hallowed. And I Hallowed, and I chain the Wanted, because... Wait, why did I do this again? I Murcielago because... Wait, why did I do this? I actually don't remember why I did that. Oh, it was because I hadn't used the grave effect yet from Hallowed, and I could shuffle back the Azamina LZ in the grave, because I didn't need the fusion in the grave, because I had Azamina LZ in the grave, so I knew that I would get 2 summons off of it. So I think I might as well get 2 bodies out of it instead of just the Omni Negate first. Right now I remember. Okay, so now I bring out the Ilia Sylvia. I look for the draw, and I set Deception after shuffling it back, and then activate it so it's face up, so that if I send it in my opponent's turn, it will reset itself in the end phase. So yeah, I have Unleashing, I have Droplet, I have Deception, I have the high value send off of Queen, because it will reset itself. I have Veiler, so I'm looking pretty decent here. So yeah, my opponent extravs, which means he's probably on a weird deck. He activates Dark Ruler, but that's one of the reasons that I talk a lot about diversifying the locations that your interactions come from. Is if you get Dark Ruler and you have this huge board, you still want to have something in your spell and trap zone like Unleashing, and then you still want to have like a Veiler. Even better is if you were on Gallant Granite, you search Nib and you also search Veiler. Then you have like the most layered possible hand interruption you could imagine. So anyhow, he Dark Rulers me, he evenly matched me, and so I evenly, and I bounce some of my own monsters, because I'm thinking, so he obviously can't kill me this turn. He can't deal any damage. He's used evenly, so he's going into main phase 2. Let me not lose my extra deck resources, because the game may go into a grind. I don't want to have access to those. So I choose to bounce as many of those as possible. And so I leave Droplet on field. And so because my Wave Hiking was negated, it doesn't give me any value leaving it on field. If it wasn't negated, I probably would have left it on field, which would have not have been good, because I was going up against Floo. So now he Lightning Storms, and I lose everything anyhow. So now he has 4 cards left in hand. Now he activates, he reveals the deck he's on with Advent. And so at this point, I'm like, he's already used the Advent, so it's unlikely that he will have a dodge for the Veiler, so I'm going to Veiler the Rabina if he starts with Ravina. So he starts with Rabina. Because he has banished Toucan, it means that he can get back the M-Pen, but I'm thinking that if Rabina resolves and he gets the Eaglin, he's going to have a second one on board. I can play through the M-Pen, no problem, but I don't know if I can play through a second, like Apex, Avian, or something like that, or a Ryza in rotation. So I Veiler the Rabina so he can't get to Eaglin. But he does get the M-Pen, and then he gets to Dreaming Town. I think you could argue that maybe you're supposed to Veiler the M-Pen, because then he doesn't get Dreaming Town. But then he would still have... I'm actually not sure what's correct there, to be honest. Anyhow, in the end phase, Deception resets itself. And then I draw into an LZ, which is great, because now I have like an actual engine piece, not just an extender in Azamina LZ. Okay, so now that I have the Murcielago Engrave, I can Hallowed, shuffle it back to add the Hallowed back to my hand. I can... So here he Dreaming Towns, and if he Dreaming Towns at this point, it's telling me that he's probably going for Apex Avian. So he Rabina's for the Eaglin, Eaglin's for the Avian, and now he brings out the Avian. So we have to remember the M-Pen is on the field, so I can't summon my monsters in attack position. I also can't normal summon, otherwise he's going to get another rotation of summons. And so that means that as long as I can summon everything in defense position without normaling, I have to play through one Omni Negate, which is the Apex Avian. Because I've drawn the LZ, it does mean that I can force the Avian no matter what by Hallowed, because even if he doesn't negate the Hallowed or the Deception, I can bring out... am I playing Sol in this version? I'm actually not, but it doesn't matter because you'd bring out either Ilya Sylvia or Sol. I think I would not be playing Agnum Day in this version, and I would put the Sol back in, but there is some overlap between Abao and Sol because both of them give you pops. Anyhow, it's just worth mentioning that Sol is usually the push for like crackbacks and stuff like that, not Ilya Sylvia, but regardless, he knows that this can give me an Omni Negate, so he's probably going to negate it. So here he negates the Hallowed. And now I'm like, okay, I have the tails I can pitch for the LZ. I search something that is not a normal summon. I special the Rusia, and now I send the Deception to get a draw to see what I get. I get a Wanted, I go into Silvera, so now the M-Pen is turned off. Now I can special the Azamina LZ, and we can go into the Diabel in attack position. We can search for something else. We can add back Hallowed because the fusion effect is not once per turn. Here I search for the, I think I'm only playing one Diabel. Yeah, so, and I bring out the Murcielago because here I'm planning on making a Chaos Angel, so that's why I'm just going for card economy. And I don't have a Sol, otherwise I maybe would have gone for a Sol for a pop first, and then, yeah, so now I make the Chaos Angel, I banish the map, which means I can normal summon now. So here I summon the Esteller, and I pitch my Wanted that I searched to bring out the Sylvie. Now I get a draw into an Engraver, which is a very good draw, although because I'm on the Sanct engine, it doesn't actually do anything. It just puts the Engraver in rotation with my other Fiendsmith. Well, I say it's a very good draw. It actually didn't really matter. It just puts another light Fiend body engrave so that it would be easier for me to go into a sequence play, because now I could, like, you know, let's see, what could I do here? Actually, no, because I don't have access to tank. If I Engraver, Shuffle Back Engraver, or Requiem, I wouldn't have enough material, I think, to make the sequence play. So anyhow, I think it was actually, it was only relevant because it could give me a spell discard. Yeah, okay, that's why it was an okay draw, is I could Engraver, pitch it for the Sanct, and now I have a spell that I can pitch off the Arciela. Yeah, okay, now I remember. And that allows me to bring back the Esteller. I can bring out the Engraver, equip the Requiem to pop the face down, and now I can go battle phase. So, yeah. Okay, now for the final game, which is against Dragon Link. I'm going second here, right. Okay, so he quick launches for the Rocket Tracer. Striker Dragon gets boot. And this board that he makes is actually extremely mediocre. Because the thing is... So the thing is, like, he had a Druis Worm, which he uses as a material to make a Masquerena. So not only is the Druis Worm not an interaction on my turn, but he can't use it as a material with the Masquerena to make a Little Knight, so that he has both the Little Knight Banish and the Druis Worm Send. So it's a super inefficient usage of resources to make these two monsters, where it makes it so his game plan is extremely linear, because obviously he's not going to use Masquerena and Seals to make Little Knight. He's going to Seals first, bring something out, and then that body is going to be material for the Masquerena, which almost kind of like telegraphs too that he's not going to bring out a Floodgate. It's just going to be something that he's going to use as link material. So I see this and I look at my hand and I'm like, okay, the two cards that I really want to resolve are Elzette and Thrust for talents, because whatever like BS he brings out from the deck, I want to be able to potentially take it off of a talent. So again, I activate something first, hoping that he will respond in some way, and that I don't have to try to resolve the things that I actually care about resolving yet. So here I set 2, he does nothing, so I'm like, okay, well I have to actually play now, so I LZ, I send Soldier, Soldier effect, Soldier comes out, which means that he probably doesn't have another Bestial, so, you know, unfortunate for, I mean, not that it really mattered if that resolved, but, you know, it just shows that he has less interactions. So here he Valors, which is, you know, you can't Valor the LZ. If you Valor the Toy Soldier, like, it so doesn't matter. It so doesn't matter in this scenario because I've already gotten the search off the LZ, and this is just a body, so I'm, you know, just soaking that interaction. And here he seals. I think he's thinking that if he seals and bounces an LZ, then I don't have a White Forest name on field to continue with Rusia or something. And But it so doesn't matter because I've already searched the normal summon and I haven't normal summoned yet. So I don't know if then his game plan was he will Little Knight the normal summon and then hope I can't play. But I have so many cards. So now I can talents for, or thrust for talent, sorry, and now I can talents to take, and he chooses not to respond. If he does Little Knight, when the talents resolves, the Little Knight will be on my field, and I will be the one that is able to activate the trigger effect of Little Knight. So anyhow, I get his Masquerena, and now I'm thinking that he has nothing else in his hand, so I'm just like free to continue playing. I send the tank, I search for Unleashing, tank brings itself back out, I search for the Witch off the Wanted, Witch pitches a Stellar, I bring out Deception, I tribute his Masquerena, I bring out the Sol for the pop, because here I'm playing a different list here, so I think I wasn't playing, yeah, I wasn't playing the Abao or the Agnum Day in this list, and I prefer this because I feel like I have more spaces. I can have in the Zapper Shrimp, I can have in the Sol, and I feel like those cards are more generically useful. The Abao feels a little bit win more to me. I don't really get the chance to link into it very often, so those are the matches that I'm showing for today. Again, here's the deck profile, one last look. I think I'm going to probably cover a version like this without the toy cards next because some people have been discussing that, so I may do that and play a clean 40. So anyhow, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Feel free to join the Discord or subscribe or don't. Thanks for watching.